Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be treating applications of genetics. So we'll be seeing how genetics is being applied currently. So first, the application of genetics spans through multiple fields in medicine, agriculture, forensic science, and even biotechnology. So this application enhances the understanding of DNA, genes, and inheritance to improve human life and address biological challenges. So in medicine, we have stuff like diagnosing hereditary disease and also gene therapy. So this portion is where you could see how by the study of genetics we could be able to predict possible outcomes of children. Like what I said in the previous lesson, we are talking about how the children's genotype could be predicted due to genetic study. So this is how genetics or the knowledge of genetics can be applied in medicine. So for instance, identifying gene mutation can also help in predicting diseases like breast cancer and also tailoring treatments to individual genetic profiles. So let's see how it applies also in agriculture. So in agriculture, it involves the development of genetically modified organisms known as GMOs. So you should have heard it somewhere. GMOs, they are genetic modified organisms. So like plants, even animals, you could see how they would modify offsprings of plants. They would try to crossbreed them to give a particular or to make a particular trait dominant in their offsprings. So this is used to improve crop yield, also for pest resistance in case of plants, and also the techniques are used for selective breeding, as I just mentioned, and genetic engineering. So this particular advancement, genetics actually, the application of genetics in agriculture is very well pronounced and is wide, both in animal breeding and also plant growth. So in forensic science, it is used for DNA profiling, where you could probably have maybe there's a crime. We could use genetics or the study of genetics to be able to trace or find out who the real culprit is by studying the sample or the biosamples. So it can be used for paternity testing and also for the testing of DNAs, like parents, father, and offspring's DNA. So this is what we see when they probably say there is there's something like an issue between father and child or father and mother, and they don't know who is the mother of the child, or sorry, who is the father of the child. So they could carry out a field of genetics and an exercise in genetics to try to determine who the offspring or who the offspring belongs to. So this is under forensic science and how genetics is applied under forensic science. So it allows for accurate identification through genetic materials found in crime scenes and also through genetic materials that are found in parents. So it can be used to predict the offspring or to predict the real parents of the offspring. So genetics is also applied in conservation biology to preserve an endangered species. So it's usually used to preserve species like maybe some species of gorillas, some species of even lions. They could use genetics to preserve this species. How is this done? By taking the gene and replicating it in a new offspring, doing stuff like that, genetically modified organisms, creating GMOs of these rare breeds, all these rare breeds, or trying to preserve their gene by taking samples and replicating it in the lab. So genetic analysis helps to understand population structure and also genetic diversity, which are critical for formulating effective conservative strategies. So this genetics is actually used also in conservation, organism conservation. So biotechnology leverages genetics through development of products like insulin, vaccines, and genetically engineered bacteria for waste management. So in some industries where they produce harmful waste, so, and they cannot release this waste directly to the environment, they would use genetics to generate what they call genetically engineered bacteria. So these bacteria would feed on this waste and decompose this waste and make it such that they can be able to release this waste to the environment without it being as harmful as it previously was to the environment. So these kinds of application is where biotechnology uses genetics. So these innovations demonstrate how genetics can be applied to several real world problems across diverse sectors. So in conclusion, genetics has profound applications that influences many aspects of modern life, from enhancing healthcare to improving food production and environmental conservation. The use of genetics knowledge is indispensable in advancing technology and addressing global challenges. So genetics is actually a wide field in biology and modern biology, and its understanding is very useful to for both conservation of living organisms, creation of modified organisms, and several others, even vaccine production, um, and many others, just several possible use cases for genetics. So the understanding of genetics is very crucial for modern biology and is useful in current day biology. So with all this being said, we have come to the end of this lesson and I'll be saying goodbye.